AI architecture is also getting much more complex, and we'll talk about that in a second. Your FinOps practice, therefore, is needing to also evolve to become more complex than maybe what we've even seen a few months back. And we all need to focus, as we saw in that poll, on the value. What's the internal value? What's the external value? And how are we going to measure that going forward?
So this is an example of one of the key slides within for Gen AI. I have multiple of these, where it's a quick view for executives and leaders. How are we trending on our spend? What was our spend last month? Are we up or down? What's our spend year to date? Quick view. They don't need to dive into details. They don't need to go into 10 different dashboards to see this information. Single source of truth.
And so here's an example for AI inference workloads running on CPUs rather than GPUs. It also makes a difference which CPU you select. And so across recommendation engines, large language models, natural language processing, as well as LLM transformers, on average here, you see there's about a 2x performance uplift just through choosing a specific type of instance or virtual machine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So while everybody is joining, I just want to do a quick reminder that today, on today's summit, to make sure that you're sharing your knowledge, not sharing sales pitches, and make sure that what you are sharing isn't private or confidential information. So with that, let me just give everybody a second. We've got a bunch of people joining, getting through that. Perfect. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get started. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Stacy Case, and I'm the VP of Education here at the FinOps Foundation. And I am so excited to welcome you to our September Virtual Summit, where we're going to be doing a deeper dive into FinOps for AI. I'm looking at all the participants, and we have a great group of people with us today. There's a lot of familiar faces and also quite a few first-time attendees as well. So whether you've been part of this community for a long time, for many years, or you're brand new, I just want to say welcome. You are in the right place. The FinOps Foundation is a nonprofit trade organization that's part of the FinOps Foundation, and our mission is to advance the people that are like you, who are doing the critical work of managing the value of cloud and often technology. We do that through education, community, connections, best practices, and specifications. And today we're going to be diving into one of the most exciting and fast evolving topics in our space. And of course, that is FinOps for AI. So we're going to be spending the next 60 minutes exploring how AI changes the FinOps landscape and what challenges it introduces, how practitioners are adapting, and along the way, you're going to hear from expert speakers, gain practical insights, and of course, have the opportunity to connect and ask questions. So please feel free to use the chat feature throughout today's summit. Share your thoughts, drop in your questions. This is what makes our summit so valuable. It's that ability to share with one another. And at the end of the summit, we're going to be opening up for interactive conversation. But I do encourage you to drop those questions in as you have them so you don't forget them. And of course, we'll ask the presenters at the very end of today's session all of your questions. So just keep those coming along. Okay, so since we last met here, we've had some really exciting things happen. Our India community leader, Ishita, has hosted 2 meetups in India. And last night, Joe Daly was in New York for a meetup there. It was so fresh off the presses that we don't even have pictures of it yet. And I want to encourage everybody to go ahead and go to events.finops.org to see what other meetups we have coming on in the future. We encourage all of you to attend those. Also, back in August, we had our first FinOps X Day in Sao Paulo. Joe Daly and I were lucky enough to join Rodolfo down there and the amazing LATAM community. We had a great turnout with some of the most kind and warm people in our community. I was so excited to be down there representing the foundation. So it was really exciting. And our FinOps X Days are a great way to meet each other in the community and see those amazing presentations. And if you didn't know, we have 2 coming up right away. So Amsterdam is next week. It's almost sold out. So if you've been on the fence about that one, don't hesitate. Go out, buy a ticket today. Ruben has pulled together an amazing lineup of speakers for the event. And in October, if you're in the US on the East Coast, I would encourage you to sign up and attend the Washington, D.C. X Day. This is going to be both private and public sector. So encourage you to register for that as soon as you can. And if that's not enough, we are also entering cloud conference season. So I encourage you to check out all of the different Slack channels that we have and join the conversation. Let us know what conferences you plan on attending, what you're hoping to see, what you are seeing. We'd love to make sure everybody has a chance to connect and talk about these conferences because such great information does come out of it. And as always, I just want to extend a huge thank you to all of our Premier members. As a nonprofit organization, we deeply value the commitment these organizations make to support the FinOps community. And for me personally, it's been really inspiring to watch that growth grow over the years. So when I first started with the FinOps Foundation, when it started 5 years ago, there were 12 members, and it was largely made up of solution providers and GSIs. Since then, it has expanded to over 200 members and includes cloud providers, enterprises, hardware and data center companies, and SaaS organizations. It's really been incredible to see the community support grow and evolve. It grows so quickly that we have a hot off the presses announcement. Cast.AI literally just joined as a Premier member, and we have Laurent on here to help just give a quick introduction and tell us why you guys decided to join the FinOps Foundation.
Thank you, Stacey. It's a real pleasure to be here. I feel that I'm here among colleagues and partners and friends. I've seen many of you guys in many conferences in the past. Look, I think we are building the same thing. We want the same thing. We want to help our practitioner use the cloud, but use the cloud for the right thing, for the right quantity of stuff that we're all doing, for the right GPUs. What we build is very simple. We build agents that manage your cloud infrastructure, that manage your Kubernetes, your Carpenter, Autoscaler, right-sizing, all of these things are cloud native. And when we have agents that do this, then suddenly your cloud becomes very, very efficient. And that's our goal. And that's what drives us. That's why drive the reason why I started the company. I was a practitioner. And I was so frustrated, never understanding why I was doing all these things. So I really love this community because you exist for the right reason. And I really mean my words. We are all here for one goal, to make this a better place. I can't wait to be seeing all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. We're so happy to have you here and be part of the community in a formal way, and look forward to seeing what this partnership can bring. And it's really hard to believe, everybody, that the FinOps X, one of the best conferences, in my opinion, was only a couple months ago, and we're already here to discuss the registration for 2026. So I'm going to be turning it over to Steve Trask. But first, I want to give you a fun little recap of this year's FinOps X.
Our mission is to help all of you advance your careers. Welcome home.
FinOps is a space to connect, to learn, to share. It's an opportunity to be with those who get you, with those who do the work you do every day.
And we hear a lot of people talking about AI almost as a dedicated segment, or one might say scope. So who went to a party last night? All right, who went to all the parties last night?
I have really been enjoying all the sessions about expanding FinOps scopes into other areas and really just extending FinOps reach.
Even people that you never met before, they'll come up to you and discuss anything and everything about FinOps.
So let's talk about AI.
Let's talk about AI.
Hey everyone, Steve Trask here from the FinOps Foundation. I'm excited to announce early bird registration is now open for FinOps X 2026. This is the conference where the global FinOps community comes together. Whether you want to learn the latest best practices and techniques on FinOps for AI, optimization, executive enablement, FinOps scopes, any other topics and more, you want to hear about the feature releases from the clouds and tooling providers launch at the actual event, join the collaborative chalk talks, build your peer network. Perhaps you might find that next career move. This is the conference to do it at, and it's at a different scale. So register for an early bird ticket, save $200. There's a bit of FinOps optimization pun there. There is a practitioner group discount if you bring your team, which we're seeing more in recent years. There's a pre-con ticketed event, so you can arrive early and jumpstart into that content and build those connections. You can check it all out on x.finops.org. Shout out to the team for the updated website and all the work they put into it. The conference also gives the opportunity for FinOps leaders to share their knowledge and to cover those speaking opportunities that are coming up. I'll pass you across to Andrew on the team for details.
Hey everyone, what's up? Andrew here. It's happening. I'm so excited. The CFP is now open for FinOps X 2026. We wouldn't have a conference without the expertise of our community, and I'm so excited to see this next wave of proposals. Our content committee is looking forward to seeing best practices and expertise across FinOps topics and capabilities. But before you rush, first things first, you gotta check out our updated speaker guide for 2026. I think Teammate will throw the link in chat here in a moment. And then after you read that and you're ready to go, fill out the CFP form to submit your big idea. And please reach out if you have any questions or you need any help with the process. We're all here to help. We're all here to support you. Best of luck, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so to kick off all of our FinOps for AI content today, we have the incomparable Rob Martin, who, as we can tell by all of these badges, he likes to collect them all, including a little special Easter egg badge that we have included for him and him alone. So Rob, I'm gonna hand it off to you and get started.
Thank you, Stacy, and excited to be here. Let's talk a little bit about AI. If you like that little blue badge, stand by in about 10 minutes and you're going to get some interesting news about that. I wanted to start with a quick poll because the thing that I have been doing that is the most favorite thing that I do at the foundation these days is supporting our AI or FinOps for AI working group. And in that working group, we're trying to address a lot of the questions that you are probably addressing in your practice. So I wanted to ask you all, if you had to pick one of the things that is your current biggest focus around your AI use in your FinOps practice, is it how much are we spending on AI? I don't know if any of you have heard that question from your bosses, or is it how do we effectively allocate the AI costs that we care about or the big bucket items that we're spending on? Or is it how do I express the value that we're getting from AI? Or like many organizations, you may not be using enough AI yet to be focusing on any of these, but I wanted to get a sense from you all before we get started on where are your challenges? And it looks like we're sharing the results now. It looks like, so 38% of you saying I'm having trouble with the value. That's going to track very closely to what we're seeing in there. 15% of you not probably using enough AI at this point, and then a pretty split mix of how do I collect all my AI costs and how do I effectively allocate my AI costs? Okay, this is great information to have, and I'm going to touch on a couple of these things as we go through our presentation today. I just want to speak for a couple of minutes. I have been supporting this AI working group now for a couple of years. And I'm not entirely sure that I'm not an AI myself at this point. I think I'm a human because when I click, I'm not a robot on the internet. It lets me look at my email. But I am in a group of people who are absolutely amazing at both managing AI, building AI systems, understanding how to communicate communicate those. And I wanted to share a little bit about some of our insights in the group with some of you. If you could think back all the way back in prehistoric times, back to June of 2025 at FinOps X, we heard from Mike Fuller and JR on stage in the keynotes talking about AI, and realized that AI is all new and it's also all the same. If we look at how all the new, what's new about all this this AI usage in our FinOps practice, there's new terminology and new engineering practices. We're seeing that in spades these days. There are new personas to work with, less experience. We have less experience predicting and controlling costs in this new world, and we're needing to do faster decision making. But on the flip side, all of this AI stuff feels calmingly familiar in some ways, right? We are used to including new terminology in our practice. We're used to adapting to new engineering practices in the cloud and in SaaS and all the other places where we manage cost in our businesses today. And working with new personas, predicting costs that are hard to predict, and faster decision making, those are the bread and butter of what FinOps practices do. So I wanted to go forward in time 3 months to now and talk a little bit about some of the observations that our AI working group are currently working on. And we're going to hear about some of these in sessions later on today in this call. First off, I don't have to tell you that AI technology is on a fast adoption curve, and it seems only to be getting faster. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the speed with which things are being introduced. One of the fun things about AI is AI turns around and tries to do everything you try to do to it. We talk a lot about doing FinOps on AI costs. You can also use AI to do FinOps. Cast.AI is doing exactly that. Many of the organizations that are involved, many of the people involved in FinOps are using AI in their FinOps practices today. You can also do AI on your Kubernetes, and you can do Kubernetes, build Kubernetes infrastructures to support AI. AI is a fun thing because it always turns around on you. AI architecture is also getting much more complex, and we'll talk about that in a second. Your FinOps practice, therefore, is needing to also evolve to become more complex than maybe what we've even seen a few months back. And we all need to focus, as we saw in that poll, on the value. What's the internal value? What's the external value? And how are we going to measure that going forward? So if we look at the technology adoption cycle first, one of the biggest recommendations that our AI working group has been talking around, and we'll be writing on this very soon, is the cross-functional AI investment review that is now critical to success in this area. Call this an architecture review board, call it an AI investment council. This group of people needs to come together to establish some common AI terminology. And there are a bunch of different rubrics for doing that, whether it's category 1 through 5, as Gartner recommends, or just internal and external spending, but categorizing or coming up with terminology that's going to work for your AI practice or your AI focus is going to be critical for your organization to then start to talk about that more evenly. AI isn't just a strategy, just like cloud wasn't a strategy. So you need to get more specific about that. There needs to be more training and enablement in place, and that can be a really key thing to making this investment review council work really well. Having common KPIs and understanding of your cost centers, your governance in your organization, and how the different AI investments that you're considering are going to affect those is really critical. And having the business and technology buy-in on that together collaboratively is going to be really critical, particularly for establishing a proof of value, understanding what are we really expecting to get out of a proof of concept of a new AI feature or a new investment. That's going to have to be a review that happens iteratively. It happens frequently, and it's going to be an incredibly important part of what we need, what you need to do to manage these AI costs overall. Now, let's take a look at the architectures for a second. Back at FinOps X, we had kind of a simplified view of AI architectures, but as we've seen even in the last few months, we have evolved quickly to architectures that are even more complex. So no longer are we in sort of a user asks a question, gets a single answer back, but we're into RAG models and AI agents and agentic AI. And when we get into the world of agentic AI, we're seeing even more complicated architectures being implemented across the board with different vendors offering different types of solutions. And the volume of data and the volume of tooling and the volume of content that needs, or the of architectural thinking that needs to go in to building these kinds of agents is absolutely amazing. So we're needing to then take a little bit, this is where some of that enablement comes in, and where the investment review board can really make a big impact in assigning and designing governance that happens at design time when we're building these systems, governance that happens at runtime to help us control the less deterministic cost that AI will sometimes implement. And it helps us to understand, we need to be able to enable all of our organizations to understand sort of the way that we're building these systems. So what we're trying to do in the working group, again, is to identify topics that are concerning or that are challenging to different organizations. We recently had Josh and David recently released the GenAI FinOps paper on how token pricing really works. That's gotten a lot of visits on the website. So hopefully that is something that has been useful to you. We released another paper yesterday. Tiago and Jean and a number of the people on the working group worked together on a model context protocol, or MCP, paper. And that actually talks about how you might use the various cloud MCPs to use in your FinOps practice if you were trying to experiment with AI in your practice as well. So lots of good stuff coming out. We want to hear from you as we go on. What are the topics? What are the big questions that you would like us to address? Now, in expanding our FinOps practice, we also need to be thinking about what are we going to do? Where are we going to spend as FinOps practitioners our time in AI? Back in the FinOps for AI, or State of FinOps survey, for 2025, you reported to us that these Innovate for AI things are they're the capabilities that you're doing in your practice to understand your AI costs. Really getting to that first question, what are we spending on AI overall? Allocation, data ingestion, reporting and analytics, anomaly management, some additional tools probably that you're needing to use to understand your cost or present those well. Those are all in that sort of understanding your cloud usage and cost area. And that's probably appropriate because you're needing to get a really good understanding of what it is that you're spending. Becky is going to be speaking in a few minutes, and she's going to be talking about how her organization is actually looking at that and getting value out of looking at the cost that's going on there and actually finding quick wins, even in doing those kind of early stage activities. But we're seeing this, and because we're seeing the evolution of AI happening so fast, we're also seeing the need to start to move from that understand usage and cost domain into quantifying business value, into optimizing your AI spend. Not an area where a lot of organizations are doing work, but where organizations are using a lot of AI, that's a really important thing to do. This thing that you're seeing on screen right here is a worksheet that has been used, that was included in the first release of the FinOps for AI training course. And this is in the introduction materials, and allows you to kind of go through and fill out, use this as a worksheet to fill out what are the scope, what's the AI scope that I want to really focus on? How do I want to differentiate my FinOps practice to support the business strategies I have for this, most important AI spending that's going on, or for my internal AI spending, or whichever scope is going to be most important for your business? What are the technology strategies I'm trying to support? What infrastructure am I going to include? How quickly do I want to do that? And which of these capabilities am I going to really focus on to make the biggest difference, to generate the biggest value for our organization? So this is a tool that you can use as you're starting to think through, how am I going to do my FinOps practice? How am I going to mature my FinOps practice? And just like revisiting those AI investments every so often, periodically, we need to go back and revisit our FinOps strategy to do that same thing. This is incredibly important because the level of data that we are dealing with is incredibly complex. This is just one chart from that I got from David Tepper, who's a member of our FinOps for AI working group, and it describes sort of the GPT-4o cost in all of its different, all of its glory. There are different costs for input tokens and output tokens, for batch processing, for regular processing, for vision processing. Then there are bundles that you can get. There's RI impacts, but when you're buying commitments, depending on how you're going to be paying, pay as you go or PTU pricing. And then there are also services that go along with that, or features that go along with that, like prompt caching and other things. So even understanding the cost of a single model much less all of the different architecture components that go along with that is incredibly difficult to do. And so this is a challenge for this, like these are challenges that FinOps teams get into. These are things that we need to work towards, and learning, spending the time now to start learning how these are done is important for us to do. Okay, so moving on, we want to try to get the different opportunities that we've got to use AI. Again, bringing our business people together, our business leaders and our engineering leaders together to plot out what are the things that we want to work on. Are they productivity tools that are going to give us internal productivity, things like code assistants and chatbots? Are they SaaS features in existing SaaS or platform AIs that we use today, or are they things that we're developing in our primary applications? And really spending the time to think about what kind of business value and how can we quantify that business value is going to be incredibly important. Taylor's going to talk in a bit about sort of making the FinOps practice more strategic by trying to get involved in how to measure that and how to report that sort of information to everyone. So it's not just about counting tokens or GPU optimization. It is important to understand like what are the decisions that are being made by the different platforms and how that's going to affect their value. And we'll hear from Mike a little bit on sort of making some of those big engineering decisions as well. But it's important to have some sort of rubric like this. And luckily, FinOps teams are super well equipped to do this kind of analysis and to bring together the organization to understand AI much more in depth and at much more detail. So I encourage you to do a couple of things here. One, set up these kinds of collaborative reviews. Take a look at how you're making this work in your own organization. Start to expand your thought process from just understanding your cost into that value and optimization, and help to improve your organization's decision making. Leverage the assets that we have on the website. You can read some of the papers that we've seen and see some of the videos that have been presented by FinOps for AI working group members, and let us know where we can help you to understand this area better. And helping me understand this area better, I wanted to introduce one of our FinOps for AI working group members, Becky Canterbury, who has done an amazing amount of work in this area with her company, Shutterstock. And Becky, I will turn it over to you. And thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. So quick, just a little overview about myself, if you want to go to the next slide. I am a senior manager of business operations and cloud FinOps at Shutterstock. In this space, I've been doing, FinOps for 14 years, and it has evolved so much. It's been so exciting. Also, I'm engaged in the FinOps Foundation, and I highly recommend everyone get involved. Go to your community calls. If you haven't looked into the mentorship program, it is by far one of the most rewarding things I've done with the foundation. It's great to meet other people as well. So a little bit about my role. So it's a nice marry of business operations and FinOps. There's so much I do that really relates for both regarding budgeting and forecasting, constantly doing that. There's strategy, there's planning, there's roadmaps. There's so much involved there that really plays nicely in the FinOps space as well as the business operations. So just a quick overview of where I sit within Shutterstock. So I report to the CTO. I am part of technology in the infrastructure and security group. I work with finance, if not every day, a couple times a week. So we have a really tight, good relationship where it's a constant learning and sharing of information. And AI is a big piece of the conversation now, as I'm sure it is with a lot of you. If we go to the next slide, please. Reporting AI costs. Now, there's so many cool things happening in AI. Rob touched on them. You all probably have heard many things, right? New tools, new models, new ways to use it. But if you boil it down to truly FinOps and what we need to be reporting and showing, we need to be reporting on those costs and what it looks like. And it is very different by persona how this looks. So let me just give you a brief overview of where we started. Over a year and a half ago, finance came to the FinOps group and said, hey, can you provide us the Gen AI costs? Well, of course. I rarely say no if you ask my team member. So we were able to provide that cost. They were looking for not the details. They just wanted to know by company what the cost was by month. All right, nice, straightforward. We could get that out of the dashboards. Then we started reporting to executive leadership. They as well wanted to know that cost information. They wanted to see how we're growing, but they wanted to see the tie to the revenue. Where are we? How is this driving revenue? What does it look like? And that generated a lot of conversations with the other business groups as well as for what that looks like. Then our reporting evolved and we started talking more to our different business groups. Here they care about, of course, costs. They care about revenue, but now you're adding in the customer and you're adding in prioritization of features and functionality that we're creating. And our reporting was providing them that information to help build the strategy, build their roadmap, and figure out what direction they want to go with the different models, because those are changing all the time. Now, we can't forget engineering. Rob showed you how complex engineering can get. Well, we started a little higher of just reporting on the different models, what they're spending per model, and then they could dive down and get more deep information. We use a single reporting tool that provides all of this. They could also go and look at each individual model and see this information. With that, they were able to make decisions on engineering architecture. They could decide what models were performing better, any kind of different innovation they want to do, and of course, optimization. The minute you start showing engineers their costs, they start optimizing. They start looking for efficiencies, and it's an incredible way that you see that starting to play out in the cost numbers themselves per month. So if you go to the next slide, my reporting literally is pretty straightforward. I keep it simple. Every month I provide from the C-suite all the way to engineering a cost metric deck. This deck includes a high-level view as well as a little bit of detail for all of our cloud costs, for all of the SaaS costs that we also track and manage, as well as our AI costs. The beauty in this is I've just rolled the AI into it. I haven't recreated anything. I already have a mechanism that I get people interacting and viewing the data. Keep what you got and just build on it. And it's worked great for us. So this is an example of one of the key slides within for Gen.AI. I have multiple of these, where it's a quick view for executives and leaders. How are we trending on our spend? What was our spend last month? Are we up or down? What's our spend year to date? Quick view. They don't need to dive into details. They don't need to go into 10 different dashboards to see this information. Single source of truth. And then we build it into more detail. So we have multiple models. We don't just use the big guys. We have a lot of medium, small, and everything in between models that we also report on. Well, our reporting shows all the models in one spot so they can see what their costs are by month and what that percent change is so they can quickly identify where there's changes. Incredibly powerful, as well as the added benefit of a lot of these models will have, you've got to use a certain amount. You have your consumption that you have to meet for your commit. Quick and easy way to see it. We were talking to a business leader and she asked, can I see what my current consumption is to my commitment? And we were able to point out really quickly where it was. And now she's looking at a regular basis. Then we have engineering, met with the director of AI, and I'm just going to use VO as an example here. He looked and said, wait a second, we should have had no spend on this model up until last month. I wonder why. So he took the takeaway to find out who is using that model, what feature functionality it's going towards, and is it going to have continual costs? So in this case, right, your models go up and down and up and down. It's really very much a roller coaster for us. And by identifying certain areas that might be continual, it helps with our forecast. But if you noticed in the last slide, things can be pretty continual when you add it all up into one. So just being able to show this detail of all the models on a single page has been incredibly powerful for both executives and then business and of course engineering. So a key takeaway here is speak the language of each persona. That is how you're going to make a lot of impact when it comes to reporting. So whether you're in engineering or you're in finance or you're in a different role, you need to be able to speak the language of the person and the group you're talking to. Make sure you're providing the information that's appropriate for engineering, because that's not appropriate necessarily for an executive. So make sure you're tailoring your reports to meet the needs. Also, single source of truth, huge, right? I have my report that's built, but then you can dive in and go into our reporting tool and get even more detail. So you can always see how I built this data, but a single source of truth with all the models in it. And in our case, we're adding them all the time. So it's a constant job to make sure we're having that visibility, but it's incredibly important. Also, that visibility is going to provide strategic decisions for the business. It's going to drive your optimization and, of course, your accountability. In our case, finance is really interested because of how they do chargeback and allocate the monies in a certain way. Leadership is also going to do it look at it a certain way as far as strategic decisions along with the business. And the second key takeaway is business value is so key here. Make sure you're connecting those AI costs to value, whether it's a feature or functionality. So in my deck, we have certain groups that are using AI, and in their particular reporting, I add in the AI so they can see how their feature functionality is utilizing and spending AI, and they can tie that back to revenue. Make sure it's just not an expense. This isn't just a line item on the OpEx. This is something we should all be looking and striving for. Start simple when it comes to your reporting. Cannot stress this enough. You will never have this perfect. Don't try to make it perfect. Get something out there, keep it simple, and then get feedback from all the different people you're working with. I think I'm on the 10th iteration of my report as I continue to get feedback and provide the information they need. For example, revenue is the next thing we're going to be adding. Revenue layered on top of our AI costs so people can see truly how AI is driving the revenue as the company, as well as other items that we will be layering in on top of our reporting. But start simple and then grow from there. And then remember, all this reporting you're providing is actually truly valuable for strategy, for planning of the roadmaps, for different ways of prioritizing all the different features, functionalities that you have. So it's an exciting space that continues to grow and continues to have lots of challenges. So we'll continue to grow as the AI space does. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Natalie.
Actually, I gotta say thank you first, Becky. Again, everybody, Becky, not only is she amazing and has really contributed to the FinOps for AI working group, she's also been so helpful when it comes to even helping us out with the FinOps for AI certification and training program. So Becky, a huge thank you from all of us on the education team for your assistance there as well. And that actually is the perfect transition over to Natalie. I want to introduce Natalie Bergman, who's going to give some training announcements. And Natalie, if you don't know her, she's our training manager and senior instructional designer and is one of the pivotal people when it comes to the FinOps Certified FinOps for AI course. So Natalie, want to give some updates on what's happening there?
Most definitely. Hi, everyone. I am very excited to share that level 1 of the FinOps Certified FinOps for AI series is now live. This is the next step in this full learning series that we're rolling out over the next 6 months, ending with a final certification exam. Once you enroll, you're going to have access to everything that's available now and everything new that's being released along the way. Plus, you get to collect cool badges as you go. So let's dig into what's inside level 1. You all already know the challenges with AI costs. Rob talked about it, Becky talked about it. They're unpredictable, hard to piece together, and often hidden in invoices from multiple vendors and different types of tech. FinOps for AI level 1 is built for exactly where we are right now. It's designed to help you untangle AI spend, bring clarity and accountability across the org, and do it without slowing down innovation. This level is all about moving from theory to practice. You're going to learn how to allocate AI costs across teams and services, gather and unify spend data, report in ways that tie dollars to outcomes, manage anomalies and reconcile invoices, collaborate across teams to keep AI spend accountable. And you'll also learn to enable engineering and product teams and partner with finance, security, procurement, so that cost awareness becomes part of everyone's decision making. The value here is big. You're not just tracking AI spend, you're stepping into a leadership role on one of the most important cost areas in technology today. You'll help your organization begin to think about scaling AI responsibly, and you can grow your own career at the same time. Level 1 is ready for you right now. If you've already purchased, you can start today and be one of the first to earn this badge. If not, now's the perfect time to enroll. There's a 20% discount through the end of this month when you use the code AI20. You'll get tools and best practices your teams can use right away. So remember, enrolling gives you the whole series, not just level 1, including all the future levels and the final exam. Level 2 release is just around the corner, and it will be all about building strategic oversight to make sure AI spend lines up with business goals. So head over to learn.finops.org, get started with level 1, earn your badge, and join this learning journey alongside this whole community and bring these practices back to your team. With that, I'll pass it back over to Stacy.
Thanks, Natalie. I want to personally just real quick do a huge shout out to Natalie and the whole training team. They are the people behind building out all the training and certification and education that we see all of you earning your badges, but huge thanks to Natalie and team for doing all of that. All right, next up, we are going to be passing the baton over to Mike from AMD. So Mike recently actually was a presenter at FinOps X earlier this year, and he's here to continue that deep dive into FinOps for AI with his presentation. So Mike, I'll hand it on over to you.
Thank you, Stacy, and a shout out to the FinOps Foundation for FinOps X. It was a really, really good event. The quality of conversations, especially on the floor, was really good. So thank you for hosting that. Next slide. So hey everyone, Mike Thompson here. I manage our global cloud product and business here at AMD for the hyperscalers, for the clouds that you see here. One of the big reasons that I and AMD wanted to join the FinOps Foundation was to help practitioners think different. There's a lot of legacy decisions that are often made when choosing cloud infrastructure. And so we wanted to help customers see beyond some of those legacy decisions so that they can make more efficient decisions. Dispel common myths of total cost of ownership projections in order to help stop wasting cloud OpEx, educate the community on some new and novel performance-driven optimizations that you can take advantage of in the cloud and even on-prem, and particularly for the quality of the community, like I mentioned a moment ago. So next slide. As a brief introduction to why AMD and why consider your compute platforms when you're making decisions about where to run your applications in the cloud. AMD provides processors of all types to our cloud providers in order for them to create the instances and the virtual machines that applications that your company is running in the cloud. We play across all the major clouds. A lot of the digital natives use AMD processors quite a bit, and enterprises as well as OEMs. So right now there's over 1,000 different AMD EPYC CPU. EPYC is our data center class CPU. There's over 1,000 different instances or VMs running in the clouds in 2025. So we're pretty ubiquitous. And here's the reason that processor choice matters. You know, one of the main myths or potential missteps that we're trying to help educate the community on is in cloud, oftentimes folks will look at the hourly cost of one of these machines that they're renting, and assume that the hourly cost determines their total cost of ownership, or the TCO. So here's an example where it's VMA, we've normalized to that, and VMB, this is VM as a virtual machine. It's one of the servers that you might rent from the cloud, is 15% more expensive. Well, if you assume that determines the total cost of ownership, what is your true net cost? It's possible to make suboptimal economic decisions. If the second virtual machine, the one in blue here, VMB, is double the performance, the net cost for that job is actually quite a bit lower, 42% lower, in fact. And so we encourage you to think different. Consider the impact of performance of the compute platforms that you're renting in the cloud on your TCO, or your true net cost. Now, sliding over to AI, this also applies to AI on, so there is a myth around AI that AI is always GPU. There's one green company out there that has minted probably 10,000 millionaires, and so they're really famous. Everybody thinks AI means GPU, or a graphics processing unit. While those are absolutely necessary for many applications like training and even some inference applications, what they do is when they get these models for running AI, they need to go out and run in order to be able to serve the public. There's a vast variety of models and applications that can run just fine on CPU, and that's what I'm trying to convey here. So roughly, if you have small or medium-sized models, or you don't have sensitivity to latency, it can make a lot of sense to run your inference applications, to run your AI models on CPUs. They're very highly available, and they tend to be a lot less costly than the equivalent GPU instances. Now, there are cases when you definitely need GPUs, but that's not all the time. In some cases, you could be spending up to 10 times the hourly rate to be running something on a GPU versus a CPU. So for classical ML recommendation systems, like in Netflix, when they serve you a set of recommended movies that you might want to watch, that's a recommendation engine. Large language models, we're interacting with those a lot these days. Those are the chatbots and so forth, as well as mixed workloads. So consider CPUs for your inference applications. They're more highly available, and they're much less expensive than the GPU instances. Next slide. Okay, and so here's an example of that. So this example, we're a meeting summary agent. I don't know if how many people on the call here have experienced having an AI agent join a call like this, listen in, and then 5 minutes after your meeting's over, it sends you a meeting summary. That's a meeting summary agent. Now, in this case, I'm looking at an example from AWS, one of the GPU instances they have available. That's $3 per hour, whereas the CPU instance is less than $1 per hour. So a 3x difference in the burn rate that you have in order to run that agent. Now, what I mean by applications that aren't latency sensitive, if it's not something like a chatbot where a customer or a user is expecting an immediate response, with this AI agent, do you really care whether you get the summary as you immediately end the call, or can it be a couple of minutes later after the meeting ends? In a case like that, the difference between having it immediate and 5 minutes later, it really doesn't make a difference. And so you don't need to spend 3 times the hourly cost for a faster summary. So this is one of the other ways that considering the impact of performance on your application can help you save an awful lot of cash. And in the case for AI inference, you really should consider what kind of compute platform you're choosing. In many cases, CPU inference makes a lot of sense. So next slide. Thank you. So processor choice has a large impact on total cost of, and so here's an example for AI inference workloads running on CPUs rather than GPUs. It also makes a difference which CPU you select. And so across recommendation engines, large language models, natural language processing, as well as LLM transformers, on average here, you see there's about a 2x performance uplift just through choosing a specific type of instance or virtual machine. In this case, it happens to be an HPC 7A running in AWS. And so there can be a dramatic difference. And so what we're actually measuring here in green is the performance per dollar that you get by choosing a particular instance. In this case, it's a high performance computing instance powered by one of AMD EPYC's processors. But it really will behoove you to take a look and see how much of an impact of performance has on your applications each time you deploy them. So next slide. So processor choice has a large impact on your total cost of ownership. Take some pause and consider that if you're only looking at the hourly rental rates for your cloud instances or VMs, you may be being a little bit short-sighted. CPU inference is cost and performance efficient for many applications, and so please choose your cloud platforms intentionally and wisely. So thanks for taking the time. Nice to see you all. If you're interested in following up, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. And now that the early bird registration is open for next year's FinOps X in 2026, I hope to see you register right away for that. So thanks, Mike. All right, we're going to keep moving on. We're going to start moving on because just like we had to choose, oh, let's get a little bit of extra. If somebody can help me with the extra sound there, thank you. Just like we need to choose our cloud compute platforms intentionally, we also need to have consistent, reliable billing data. So that's where FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification, or FOCUS, comes in. And Sean is here to tell us what's going on with FOCUS. Sean, over to you.
Hi there. I'm Sean Alpay. I'm the chair of the FOCUS working group. Oops. And just as a quick reminder, FOCUS is the FOCUS FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification. It's a common billing format across providers. What you see here on the screen are the current providers of the FOCUS specification. They generate data in the FOCUS format. You can see here the difference between 1.0, 1.2, conformance gap report. This is all available on the website, focus.finops.org. So if you go there and you click Get Started, you can see this graph and you can click those arrows. It'll take you out to seeing documentation as to how to go fetch that data as generated by those providers in the FOCUS format. So this is where we are so far. We've released 1.2 and some providers are generating it today. Where are we going with FOCUS? We can go to the next slide and we can see what's happening in the next few months. So we're working right now on 1.3 development, and by the end of October, we'll have completed that. There's a lot of features we're implementing, but that includes what we're calling our big rocks of split cost allocation, which is to say shared costs in a resource like Kubernetes broken out into children or sub-resources, and contract commitments, which is to say associating your details of negotiated or contractual commitments with your cost and usage so you can track consumption or burn up of your commitments. In parallel path to that, we're working on our scope for 1.4 this month and next month, and we're going to start development of that in November, hoping to complete that in April of next year and bring that to you on stage at FinOps X next June. We're also developing a tool alongside all of that that can validate the conformance of provider data sets. So we're working on a conformance program, and the foundation of that's going to be a tool that can automatically take a FOCUS data set and determine how conformant it is against the specifications requirements. So more to come on that. We're working on that right now. If any of this interests you, please consider becoming a contributor. We have a lot we want to do within FOCUS. We have years of work ahead of us. We can only move as quickly as our working group member base allows. So if you think you could help move the specification forward, not just consume it, but actually help build it, we'd love for you to join the project. You can either go to the email of focus@finops.org and say, I want to join, or you can go to the website, focus.finops.org, click Get Involved, and that will take you to the next step. You can see some of the contributing member organizations on there. It's a healthy list, but we can always use more help. So we'll have more to bring to you in the coming months, but thank you for your help with this so far. And for everyone who has adopted FOCUS so far, we thank you for that as well. So more to come. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oops. Also, go out there, get involved, join FOCUS, and contribute any way that you can. Okay, Finally, everyone, our final presenter today. This is somebody who's actually been with the community for a long time. Taylor started out as a practitioner. He was also a FinOps Foundation ambassador. He's moved on to a member organization. And Taylor, you're going to give us our final presentation on FinOps for AI today. So take it away.
Yes, I am. Absolutely. So thank you so much for the warm introduction, Stacy. I really appreciate it. And man, I'm actually really excited to be presenting about this topic today because I think it's really important and frankly pretty timely, right? And that's all about how FinOps can, and in my opinion will, become much more strategic during this era of AI. If you could go to the next slide. I think that we all know that AI is going to be a really big deal, right? But the scale of this is actually insane. It's projected that by 2030, nearly $7 trillion is going to be invested in the CapEx infrastructure that's going to support our demand for AI workloads. Listen, that's like 1% of global GDP. I mean, just think about that. And all the people that are investing money into this CapEx, they're doing it to generate a return, right? If you go to the next slide, this is straight from a McKinsey study. The real value that's being generated by all this activity, right? All of this investment, it's going to be accrued on the application layer by enterprises that are using AI to drive real business impact, right? This is companies like ours that we work at. They're going to be using AI to drive efficiencies, to grow their business, to generate value, right? But to get that value, we need to make an investment, right? And this is where FinOps has an opportunity to be very strategic during the AI era, right? Because where companies used to scale their businesses with more land, more factories, right? More distributions. In this era, we're going to be scaling businesses with more compute, right? And the cost of compute is only going to become a more important business metric. And to be a part of making these investment decisions that directly impact one of the most important metrics in a business today, that's a really strategic role. If you could go to the next slide. But we need to make sure that throughout all of this, we're approaching our role as FinOps in a strategic way, because AI is going to touch every part of our business, right? There's going to be no shortage of use cases that come our way in FinOps, right? And with just a couple taps on our keyboard, we can get access to all of that CapEx infrastructure, right? And build anything that we'd like, right? But we're going to have to pay an invoice at the end of the month, right? And this stuff is not cheap, for sure, without a doubt. There are going to be incredible use cases that we figure out, and it's going to drive billions of dollars of value for our organizations, right? But also, at the same time, there are going to be countless projects that none of us ever hear about that burnt enormous capital without providing any value back to the organization, right? So for FinOps to be strategic in the AI era, we need to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of like jumping straight into optimization and like thinking about tokens and compression and caching, right? First, we need to make sure that we have strong use cases, right? And that we're using the right tool for the job. So as these use cases are coming into you, I want you to think about a couple things, right? These are some of the things to look out for, so to speak. One is when AI is being misapplied, right? This is using AI where maybe it doesn't belong. Another is AI being mismatched, right? This is where AI maybe is the right solution, but you're using the wrong tool. As we talked about today, there's a lot of different tools in the AI tool belt, right? And then finally, once you get those two right, you have the right use case, you've got the right tool, then we can talk about optimization. And there's a lot that we can do in that area as well. I'm just going to go through each of these very quickly. If you go to the first one, misapplied, right? So a lot of people, when they see AI, especially LLMs, they see these as like a magic bullet that can solve any problem, right? But the reality is that we actually have a lot of other solutions out there already that can solve problems, not only in a potentially a better way, but also a much cheaper way, right? So don't force AI as a solution to everything, right? So a couple examples of this, like we all think, okay, AI, LLMs, it'll solve all of our customer support issues, right? But a lot of times, if you're just grabbing, for example, like a member number or like what department you want to speak to, you can use a very deterministic rules engine that can pass people into the right places very easily without having to ingest tokens in or out, right? There are, PDF to CSV conversion tools that can do this stuff very easily without having to pass it through an LLM, right? So don't assume that AI has to be the solution. If you go to the next slide here for the mismatched, right? In other cases, actually AI is the right solution, but you have to remember there's more than one type of AI, right? Not everything has to be an LLM. And I think that in the past few years, especially with ChatGPT, we're all using it. LLMs have kind of taken over, and we've seen them as like the only AI solution or a predominant one that can solve a lot of problems. But actually, there are a lot of other AI techniques that are much better suited for very specific use cases, right? And while an LLM could theoretically do the job that someone is proposing it to do, there might be better alternatives that you should consider, right? So in this case, sentiment analysis, there's, kind of more classical NLP algorithms that can do this stuff very easily and very cheaply compared to like running it through a 250 parameter OpenAI model as an example. Or image classification. There's AWS has specific managed services that can do image recognition way better than passing it through an LLM model or time series forecasting. If you move on to the next slide here. Now, once you have, we can go to the next slide. Once you've got a valuable use case, and you've identified that you have the right tool for the job, then it's time to think about optimizing, right? So then you can go through, and there's actually some really good slides earlier in the presentation about like what to think about when you're optimizing your AI infrastructure, right? You're thinking about things like the size of your clusters. Are you using GPUs or CPUs, right? Which model are you going to be using? Do you need the massive 250 parameter model, or can you use a nano or a mini, right? There's new models that are coming out, right? Typically, I saw a couple comments come through earlier where it's like, hey, all we're trying to do is stay on the most modern type of model because in general, they're getting cheaper and faster and better, right? So that's great, but make sure that you're on the right use case and tool for you first. So if we can go to the next slide. This is where you really get into, this is a slide from Rob's presentation earlier about how with AI, everything is new, but also everything is the same, right? And we can move on from here. And this is where, there are so many. We can move on to the next slide here. With both traditional cloud workloads and now with AI, there are so many different services, right? And each one of these services has a unique pricing model. And for any given resource, there are many configurations that you could place on your resource, right? And that causes potentially an infinite number of potential inefficiencies that could exist within your cloud infrastructure. And that's why we built the Cloud Efficiency Hub, which is the world's most comprehensive knowledge base of cloud inefficiencies that could exist. And together with over 80 plus contributors, I've seen many of them in the call today, we've built this kind of knowledge base of 220 plus inefficiencies. And I'd encourage you to go and check that out and figure out, again, once you have the right use case and the right choice of tool to solve that, you can look at the inefficiencies that exist. And moving on to the next slide. There are so many, like I said, almost an infinite number of inefficiencies that could exist within your infrastructure. And it's our job as FinOps to find these inefficiencies and drive action to ensure that we're running in a cost-efficient way. And this is really where FinOps for AI and AI for FinOps meets, right? Because if you think about it, the act of finding all these inefficiencies within your cloud environment, this is something that software or AI could actually potentially do for you, right? And it's something where, as the FinOps person, your job should be to orchestrate these systems that are monitoring your environment for cloud inefficiencies. If you move on to the final slide here, this is what, by the way, PointFive, the product, is intended to do, right? To help you implement this practice of cloud efficiency posture management and monitoring your infrastructure for potential inefficiencies. And essentially, by coupling the most comprehensive waste detection engine in the industry with workflow remediation tools that push insights to the relevant people within your organization, you're able to monitor and improve the efficiency of your cloud infrastructure. I just want to put it out there. We do have a free, with the music, efficiency assessment that we're able to offer everyone that's on the call today. So if you're interested in learning which inefficiencies could potentially be present within your environment and how you can remediate them at scale, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is here in the slide, or you can ping me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so very much, Taylor. And thank you to all of our presenters. We are going to have them stay on the line. We're going to ask them some questions.
Hey, everyone. Producer Andrew here. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. For more FinOps content, go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions for all of our wonderful speakers. We appreciate your support.